Hello there. You laughed! You ruined it!
Sorry.
Hello there. Welcome to the Blitzcast. This is episode 7 of the Blitzcast. We are moving right along with the episodes of the show. Real quick, before we get into the content of this episode, make sure to check out all the links in the description below, that being links to all my social media, as well as a Discord. We also now have an X page for Blitz transmissions. I will not be using it almost at all because X is a forsaken place on the internet, full of miserable people. So I will be posting announcements as well as when new videos are coming out. Very rarely will I be interacting with other people on there. So if you want to interact with me most, make sure to check out the Discord, which I think I did fix the link for. I think some people were having issues with the link. So if you want to join the Discord, try to join it. Let me know if you have issues with the link again. And I also have Instagram. That's all. Jen, you're here with us again. Jen is...
Who's sick of me, people? I'm
Jen,
just around.
You're around. What's new in the last week for Jen?
I got our dog a new squeaker toy.
We're gonna have to probably take said squeaker toy in a minute here, unless he stops.
Just enjoying the fall weather.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking out my sweaters, cardigans, and crew necks, if you will.
Yeah. I've been working and sleeping, and not even that much sleeping. It's been mostly working. So it's nice. I'm off this weekend. That's part of the reason why there was no podcast on Saturday, was because I was exhausted.
And we're lazy.
We're lazy and we suck. But yeah, so I just have been burned out this week. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the podcast on a day that I'm off, rather than making myself do it and sleeping less than I already was.
It's a crazy concept.
Yes.
Well, take care of yourselves. Sleep, eat, drink.
Self-care.
Hashtag self-care.
So, Jen, we are going to be getting woke this week on the Blitzcast because we are talking about something that you've been wanting to talk about for a while now.
Yeah.
This is a topic I think we've covered before.
A little bit.
Not on this channel, though.
I mean, I talk about it almost every time I'm here.
Yeah. So, Jen, you have the topic this week, which is...
talking about women in Star Wars.
Woke!
I mean, I talk about it a lot. My favorite characters are women because of the way that they're portrayed. And, but recently I watched a clip I just rewatched it, of Natalie Portman, when they were filming Revenge of the Sith, and it sparked more thoughts, and I don't know. I don't think it's woke. It's maybe progressive. But I like talking about feminism and
well, the
women and how Star Wars portrays women, because I think it gets a bad rep, but it's actually really well done most of the time.
The woke thing is a joke in reference to Monday Night Figure Ball. Shout out to those guys that when I'm on their show, anytime that new Star Wars media is mentioned or like a woman character is mentioned, we all just start shouting woke at the camera.
We get it. You guys don't like women. It's all right.
Dude, what?
It's all right. Just say it. Just be honest. Don't say it's a joke when you know it's not. Anyways.
I pay your salary to be on this show, okay? All right?
Me wanting to be a stay-at-home mom right now for our dog.
Stay-at-home dog mom. Yeah, so Jen, kind of take us into like what the general idea is for you as a kind of a newer Star Wars fan coming into this franchise. We've watched up until we have yet to watch Resistance and the sequel trilogy, but up until that point, we've seen everything in the Star Wars timeline that's been shown on screen. What's your like general take on how women in Star Wars are portrayed so far?
I think I think they portray strong women without saying we portray strong women. Okay. And I think that's what is so refreshing to me, because a lot of new media, it's very like, and this is a movie about girl power, and then it's like bad, like it's just a bad movie
because they put the message over the narrative.
Yeah. So like, and then you're just kind of like, well, this gives women a bad rep. Like, now everyone hates women in media even more.
And we are cool because we are girls, and girls rock.
And I just hate that. But in Star Wars, especially like, obviously Princess Leia is the blueprint, but then Padme, Ahsoka, Hera, even Omega, even as a kiddo, I think they emulate what I'm looking for when I want to see women shown. And I know that some of them are aliens, and they're not real, but it's still female portrayals, and female stories, which I enjoy because I am one. So I look for that when I'm watching movies and media.
Sweet. I think something that Star Wars has done recently, which I think Star Wars has done way better than most other franchises right now, is tastefully showing compelling female characters that are in the universe and they feel authentic. A big one for me, I mean, we did a whole podcast episode talking about how Ahsoka is the best Star Wars live action series. That is a show that has almost entirely a main cast of women. Mm-hmm. You have Ahsoka, Sabine, one of the main antagonists, Shin Hati, Hera. You have supporting characters are more male, but Morgan Elsbeth is the one I was looking for. That's a show where it's my favorite show, and because all the characters are so compelling. I think that Star Wars has done a great job of being very tasteful with how they portray these characters.
Yeah, and I think, just kind of back up my statement, that Star Wars and just like fantasy, sci-fi media gets a bad rep because a lot of like thinking of, Princess Leia in her costume, not to use the S word.
We have to say it's Hut Slayer Leia.
Oh, Hut Slayer.
That's the new name for it.
Like, that's when people think, they're like, oh, but they put her in that outfit, which, like, yeah, like, part of me, I'm like, that's kind of icky, for sure. I'm not denying that, but it's also in the context of the movie, that was...
It's Jabba. Jabba's gross.
Jabba's gross. He already had, like, a female...
dancer
doing her thing.
Jabba's, like, the embodiment of nasty greed and filth. Yeah.
Like, I understand the... what, people have qualms with that, but I think... out of all the things, like, Leia is a badass, and, she kills someone while she's wearing her skimpy little bikini.
Not just anyone. She kills Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I just feel like maybe other media, it's a little bit more relevant of a topic, because they do just, like, throw females in the smallest, teeniest outfits. Like, I think... all the hubbub around Scarlett Johansson, her lawsuit with Marvel, or it wasn't a lawsuit, but it was a complaint about her costumes. Did you know about that?
Yeah, I've heard about
her. And Scarlet Witch Olsen.
Elizabeth Olsen.
They had a lot of complaints because they're these superheroes that all of their costumes were very busty and tight and unmovable.
Which sucks because in comic books, a lot of the characters are wearing skin-tight jumpsuits, which can be very difficult to translate over to live action. When it's easy to draw people in a comic book and then just, color them in as a certain color, like whatever their suit color is. Right.
So, that world of media, people have a lot to say about that.
Especially now.
Okay, so that's Leia. Let's name one other time in Star Wars where they just, throw a female in a skimpy little outfit.
They threw Ahsoka in a slave outfit in the Clone Wars with the Zygerians, the slavers.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
She's animated, though, so I don't
Okay, so it doesn't count.
It doesn't really count.
And the Zygerians are slavers. Again, they're awful people.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I never really understood the aversion to making products of the slave Leia. That's a big thing right now, is the action figure companies like Hasbro, they're just not making that character. The last one they made for the 6-inch action figures was in 2013 with one of the first waves of the line. Since then, they have not touched that character. It is in desperate need of a redo, just head to toe, just redo the figure. But I don't think they want to touch it with the 10-foot pole because it might stir up some negative feelings from people who don't even buy the action figures anyway. So that's kind of, as far as the products go, that's what kind of interests me. And then they just did her in that outfit with the newest Lego sail barge. But they changed up the garb to be more... It's kind of silly in that way because it's a Lego minifigure, and instead of making the legs flesh-toned, you made them all red, to make it so that she's wearing a full...
Okay.
And I saw it's dumb that they did it, and it's dumb when people complain about it because it's a Lego minifigure. So the whole thing is kind of redundant. However, I do think it's tough because it also translates to recently with there was a recent Indiana Jones action figure line, and they wanted to do Mola Ram, which is the main villain from Temple of Doom, but they ended up canceling the figure because it was negatively stereotyping Indian people. But it's the design from the movie. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I have a weird stance on that. I don't really know how I feel one way or the other, because on one hand, I'm not chomping at the bit asking for these designs of these characters. But I also feel like we shouldn't pretend they don't exist if it was already made 40 years ago.
I think
Does that make sense?
That is my complaint with a lot of that type of conversation that's been happening, is that they just want to forget that these things happened to avoid controvery. I
feel like it's the erasure of it is honestly more harmful than acknowledging it at all, you know?
Yeah. It's, I don't know, I think everyone just doesn't really know what to do, because they're going to get complaints from either side. You know what I mean? If they don't do it, you got you complaining, but then if they do it, then you have another group of people. And I mean, I'm not sympathetic to any major corporation. Right, of course. But I can understand from a PR standpoint, what do you do?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a horse apiece at that point. Yeah.
But anyway, that's my take on Leia, or Leia's, skimpy little outfit. But I think outside of that situation, Leia is the blueprint for how Star Wars shows strong women, and not just strong in the sense that she killed Jabba the Hutt and, kills people with a blaster all the time. But, like, she is strong-willed and clever and is portrayed as a political, what's the word? Like, like a political,
she's a leader?
Leader,
she's
I guess.
Leader, yeah.
That's the, but she's a focal point for the political side of the rebellion.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And then that also, the political side translates over to Padme.
Figurehead. That's the word I was
Figurehead.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. But it also, like I was saying, it translates over to Padme, though, with the prequel trilogy, which kind of, I guess, leads into your clip that you were talking about. Yeah, so
this clip of Natalie Portman was talking about, she's just talking about Padme and how she stood for democracy, but she didn't go into it knowing that she had to act more like a man in this male-dominated world. She didn't fall into the power-hungriness that Anakin fell into and a lot of the people around her did. And she stood true to herself, but she also made a point of, like, Padme's not going to be strong in the sense of how men are portrayed as being strong. She's strong in her own right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty cool clip, especially in the early 2000s. I feel like it's always nice to see that.
Yeah. There's so many great examples throughout Star Wars of you have lead and supporting female characters who are so much more in depth with how they're portrayed and how the actresses choose to portray them as well. A lot of times the actresses have a lot of say in how the characters are portrayed, and I think it's really cool that Natalie Portman has such a deep knowledge of her character and can speak so intelligently about that character, because, you know, for some people with any franchise, you don't expect, like, everyone that's in Star Wars to be a mega Star Wars fan that actually cares or, you know, gives a damn about the lore. And so for Natalie Portman to even be speaking so intelligently just about Padme's character in the context of everything going on around her is awesome. And that clip is really cool. That you sent, I think you sent it to me, the other day?
Yeah. And then, so that's the two main ones from the movies, but then you move that into Ahsoka being introduced, and I know that was, from what you've told me, was kind of, like, controversial when they told, like, everyone found out about Ahsoka.
Yeah, the whole thing was that, you know, Anakin having a Padawan, a lot of people said it didn't fit in the Star Wars, like, timeline, because it's never mentioned in Revenge of the Sith. And then all of a sudden you give Anakin a Padawan. So that was a big thing. And a lot of people thought she was annoying, too, when she first showed up in the movie.
Well, she was a kid, so.
She was a kid. Again, I like how Star Wars is authentic with how they just, these are people. We're not going to pretend that, you know, the 12-year-old knows how to act like a 40-year-old adult, you know, like a wise scholar. It just doesn't make sense. It's not good for the story. It's not good for authenticity. Let's not pretend that children don't act like children. That's you know, that's something I like that Star Wars has always kept true to. Kids will be kids. That's just they act their age. The Clone Wars, I think, is a perfect example of storytelling, again, with female characters. I think that Dave Filoni does a fantastic job of portraying female characters authentically. There have been whole episodes and arcs of the Clone Wars where you would just have, there's like a Padme and Duchess Satine have a whole episode. There's Padme and Ahsoka fighting against Aura Singh when there's the assassination attempts. The Mandalorian did it in the season 2 finale with the awesome battle scenes with Bo-Katan, Koska Reeves, and Fennec Shand and Cara Dune. I'm watching these. Never once does it cross my mind that all the characters on screen are females. I notice it after everything happens because I'm so enthralled with what I'm watching. And to I guess your first point that you made, it speaks volumes to Star Wars is able to authentically show very strong and compelling female characters without it feeling ham-fisted.
Right.
Whereas my big correlation I always make is look at that episode of the season, that awesome scene, the series of scenes you get in the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, juxtaposed to Avengers Endgame. Don't worry, she's got help. And then it pans over and it's just all the female characters from all the movies are together. That's a cool moment, but the way that they executed it was so... It just makes you roll your eyes because it's so obvious why they did that moment. Whereas with Star Wars, it's an awesome moment and you can appreciate it, but it also makes sense within the universe. And that's again, I will say I think Star Wars does it better than almost any other franchise. Consistently. Yeah.
I agree. I think Marvel, I pick on it because just in recent years it's been a little bit
it's on the nose. It's very on the nose.
Madam Web comes to mind.
It almost feels like it's like shallow. I feel like you're trying to make the selling point.
Well, and that's what's like more offensive to me. Like I don't get up in arms about
it doesn't ruin your life.
I don't get offended very easily, but like
that's a lie. No, I'm just kidding.
But when you promote something as this is like for the women, and then it's like a crappy show or
poop.
A crappy movie, and then I'm like, what the heck? Like, oh, you don't think we like substantial stories with like interesting people? Oh, you can't write a female character that actually has a personality? You don't talk to women. Oh, I was gonna say something else, but
what? Say it.
I was gonna say, oh, you're a virgin. Just say it. But like I don't know. That's what annoys me really, really badly about recent movies and recent shows. But something that I've really appreciated as we've watched Star Wars. And I know I say it like as we watch, I was like, that's girl power right there. You know, like you should want to say that without them saying, and girl power, you know, like that's
it's the spoon feeding to the audience.
The
you need to make sure that the audience knows what you're trying to do,
right?
So that people will talk about it and say, look at how this movie or this show did this with the female characters, because you didn't portray it strongly enough. So in order to make it make sure that people know what your intention is, you have to spell it out for them,
right?
And to me, it's so shallow. It's so and I'm glad that Star Wars has consistently been able to do it well, and I hope they continue to, because I mean,
yeah,
they've just, there's so many characters throughout all of Star Wars. One that another one is great for me is like Dedra Meero in the Andor series is a fantastic villain. She's a compelling villain for the show. I never once questioned her abilities as an ISB agent. I never because she's written well. Right. That's the difference. Yeah. So,
but if she wasn't written well, because she's a woman, we wouldn't think that she would do her job well.
Exactly. Yep, 100%. You heard it here first on the Blitzcast.
We hate women. No, yeah.
What are some of the archetypes in the female Star Wars characters that you enjoy most? I know you mentioned like Hera, Leia, characters like that.
And I know I said this, I think the first episode that I was on with you. With Hera, she's almost like a matriarch, like 100%. Staple. She's the mother figure of this family. and she shows that with how she's caring and how the family operates. Like, she is the mom. However, she's not. A lot of times when someone is portrayed as the mom, they are then, like, viewed as lesser than to the other people in other media.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So instead of, like, oh, I don't want to, like, do all of that crazy stuff, you guys be safe, that type of vibe, she was then caring but also empowering, which I think is cool to see. And
she still holds her femininity to her. Like, that's, I think she's very motherly.
She got an itty bitty waist and a round thing in your face, if you will.
Oh my god. No, that's another thing that I know we were talking about it just before we sat down to record, was the female characters in Star Wars. They're what's the best way to word it? They're not trying to just, like, portray.
They're being powerful without having to be powerful in the sense of, like, manly powerful. Without being
super masculine.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way to put it.
And that's another argument I feel like I see a lot in recent media, is, like, the like, weird girl or whatever that, like, I'm going against conformity, but also, like, you're just, like, acting manly, and that's fine, but also you're putting down the other girls in the show that aren't being manly,
right,
are showing femininity, and saying that I'm not conforming to that as if it's bad,
as if it's lesser, right.
So, again, that's more offensive than, you know.
Well, it just goes, I think it really speaks to how out of touch the corporations are to what an audience actually wants to see.
Right.
When I say I want to see myself in Star Wars, when, you know,
you look at a clone.
When I...
you look at Hauser.
Right, yeah. That's
what you look like.
When I see, and obviously I can't speak for people, you know, but I see a lot of, you know, people say in different demographics, they want to see themselves in these franchises. They want to be the same way that, you know, a lot of us can relate to a lot of the main characters in Star Wars. I think corporations, like, see that, and they're like, well, we just need to make sure we have every color and creed in every one of these shows, and because of that, again, you cheapen the quality of what you're making, because you have this, like, list of bullet points, this list of requirements that needs to be met before they can actually start writing the narrative, and you're stifling the writing team,
right,
and the creative side of things by telling them they need to stay within this box, these parameters that you've set. And I think it also is a lot easier for Star Wars to do, though, because a lot of the prejudices and things that show up in our world are non-existent in the Star Wars universe. Right. The issue of race is not a thing in Star Wars for humans. It just isn't. It has never been mentioned, and it has never been a prominent issue. Has Star Wars in other ways talked about those kinds of social issues? Yes, but it's done intelligently, and there's thought put into it. One of the greatest things that I love about there's an episode in Rebels. Kanan is teaching Sabine how to fight with the Darksaber. And there is, like, a moment where Kanan is almost doubting Sabine because she's a girl. But it's not explicitly said, though. But it's there. You can feel that moment is there between them, and Sabine gets frustrated with Kanan because he doesn't think that she's capable. Right. That's a perfect example to me of that kind of storytelling.
Absolutely. I keep seeing posts like this online of Disney stories from, like, the 90s, early 2000s, like Brother Bear,
Such a good movie.
Lilo and Stitch, even like Princess and the Frog.
Also a banger.
Stories like that where you're showing diverse cultures and people and just interesting stories from different points of view. But it was so beautiful. Like, and then...
Isn't that strange? Like, how...
And they weren't trying to be like, oh, we're...
Dude, like, Princess and the Frog is top 3 Disney princess movies for me. And it's just so authentic, the way that they portray everything. And again, same as Star Wars. Never once does it cross my mind...
Right.
Like... Once I'm analyzing the movie and I can take a moment and appreciate stuff more and be like, oh, I see what they did there, but it's intelligently done.
Right.
It's done with such care and passion that it's not ham-fisted. Mm-hmm. Everything now is so ham-fisted, I feel like, and yeah.
Yeah, I love watching the behind the scenes of Lilo and Stitch because the creators did so much research with Polynesian people that, like, the hula dancing is spot on, like, literally just watching someone hula dance and then they drew it. And, like, stuff like that where they took the time to understand a different culture so that they could portray it in an intelligent way. And I think with Star Wars, they use, like, Natalie Portman adding to her character. They are talking to women so that they're portraying accurate female stories rather than just there's a joke in the reading world about men writing women, and it's like just the most grotesque, like it's just funny. So, like, showing that with the Star Wars creators that they actually talk to women and they portray their stories without guessing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I won't go into detail about the books that people write, but anyway, it's so funny. Look it up.
So, what other than Hera, what's another character for you that you think really stands out to you the most?
Well, I mentioned Omega, because...
Ooh, that's such a good one.
Because she's a kid, and, like, that's her whole... She's like, I'm the kid.
Yeah.
And I said this before, like, I always... When we first started watching Bad Batch, I was like, I'm not gonna like her. Like, oh my gosh, this is so annoying. Yeah. But I mean, she's so cute, and she's so well written. And she's so caring, and that's what I think is a standout for Omega, is that she goes into this gruff group of guys that really care about each other, but, you know, they're down and dirty, and they get their stuff done.
They're boys.
They do boy things. and she brings so much life and joy into their tight-knit family. And I feel like they talk about things that they wouldn't have talked about before because of Omega.
Yes. Oh,
and
yeah.
that is that's such a female thing, of talking about your feelings, you know. I'm like, tell me.
And it's so authentic because...
Yeah, like, that's real.
I bottle things up all the time. And if I'm around, like, guy friends, I have maybe 1 or 2 men in my life that I'm, like, friends with, or even, like, family with, that I would even just scratch the surface of things that bother me or you know, issues that I'm having. Whereas it, for some reason, and I could speak for so many other guys that I know, it's so much easier to confide in a woman in your life about issues that you're having and about things that are bothering you.
How many women are we talking?
For me, it's for you. But no, but kidding. You know, guys I talk to at work and things, that every time they talk about something that's bothering them, the first person they go to is their fiance or girlfriend or wife or whatever. I find that Omega is a perfect example of again, it's authentic. She brings out the best in the batch, and she at the end is like the older sister of the group.
Yeah.
She in season 1, we find out that she is actually older than them.
Right.
But by the end of the show, like, even though she is physically looking the youngest of everyone, she becomes this glue that brings everyone together. If it weren't for Omega, the Bad Batch would have never gotten Crosshair back.
No.
And that speaks volumes to her character. I think that, again, it's something that just... it's a societal thing, because men we're trained not to talk about our feelings. We're trained to be rough and gruff and...
But I think her addition to that group is showing that importance of... And it's, I can get into it. Get into it. Like, it's showing the importance of men talking about their feelings and having people in their life, other men in their life that you feel comfortable with and are able to be vulnerable with.
Another example, season 7 of the Clone Wars.
What are you talking about? Be specific.
Ahsoka and Rex are trapped on the Venator.
Right.
Who is the one person
that
makes Rex feel better about such a hopeless situation? It's Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And again... And
that's another, like, kind of a sibling-esque relationship.
Absolutely.
And I think that's... Yeah, I think it's really cool to see done well.
Yes, it's so compelling.
It's not the idea of, like, oh, women make you talk about your feelings. Women like to gossip and they want to... Oh, women always talk too much. It's that idea, but in a real way of, like, no, it's okay to talk about your feelings. Men should talk about your feelings. And sometimes you need that sister or that wife or that mother to come in and pull it out of you.
What's the mantra? Didn't they say I've heard, like, if there's something about women, we always end up talking about men. Isn't that a thing?
I've never heard that.
It's something, I don't know. If you're still watching or listening right now, comment. I feel like I've heard that in, like, a literary class or something before, where it's like, if the topic is women, we always end up talking about men.
It's interesting.
It's not a fallacy.
Yeah.
It's
something like that.
Something like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
We just did that. We just ended up talking about men and their feelings.
It's just gender studies. Like, that's just what it is.
No, I think that's what Star Wars does really well, though, is I think that's part of the authenticity of how women are portrayed in the franchise, is how authentically interpersonal relationships are portrayed in Star Wars. Right. I think that's something that bugged me with the Acolyte series.
I was waiting for you.
The relationship between Osha and May, to me, does not feel authentic as a sisterly relationship. Because you see them, they fight and they fight and they fight when they're kids, and then they grow up, and now all of a sudden they'll do anything for each other, even though they fought and they fought and they fought when they were kids. And we only saw the negative of their relationship as kids.
Well, okay. To play devil's advocate, think about your sisters.
Oh my god. They fight all the time.
Okay, and then I think in 10 years, they're not going to fight barely at all.
Yeah, but they also don't think each other are dead.
There we go.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
I think... I don't know. The Acolyte... I think they do... There's some things that I think were interesting as far as how the women are portrayed, but other parts it was, again, shallow, and that was just my overall view of the show.
Right.
It wasn't the women, like, how the women were portrayed in specifically. It's just... I think the whole show was shallow.
Yeah, I think... Well, that show, I think, just suffered from too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah. With
the writing room, and they had 4 teams, each working on 2 episodes, and then just kind of... Here you go, here's everything.
Which, again, stuff like that type of writing, obviously you're not going to have a cohesive character arc because they didn't agree on. Yeah. Anyway, another one to bring up is Rey. I mean, we haven't watched them together.
Rey Skywalker.
But like, I have watched the movies. I saw them in theaters, actually.
Oh, in the theaters.
In the theaters with my brothers. And I think I have my qualms, and when we go back and watch them soon, I'm sure I'll have some different opinions since I have way more knowledge now than I did when I first watched them. But
Lord.
I think her character, at least especially in the first movie in Force Awakens, like, I think she's well portrayed. I think she's an interesting character. I think she's a cool frontrunner for the movie franchise.
Yeah.
I think it was strange, like, how her character progressed, and I have my thoughts on the Kylo Ren connection, but, like, I think she's a cool character. She's a female Jedi, which that's not new.
No.
People.
No.
And we see her as someone who's surviving on Tatooine. Jakku. Whatever.
Why does everyone want to go back to Jakku?
I don't know. I don't remember that type of stuff. But, you know what I mean? She was sand planet. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
So I think she's another one. She's a well-written kind of female character.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts? You have much more knowledge on Rey than I do.
I've never been a Rey hater. Maybe when the movies first came out, I was kind of like on the bandwagon.
Oh, you're a follower.
I was. But I was also in high school. Stupid, dumb idiot in high school.
Grow up, then.
Why don't you just grow up? I think you need to just grow up.
Have you ever thought of not doing that? That's a Tommy line.
It is a Tommy line. Have you ever thought of just maybe not doing that? Jen? Maybe let's not next time. I think Rey is a great character, and she suffered from a weak narrative around her.
Right.
I think that this is another case of too many cooks in the kitchen. There was too much. They should have just had it all set from the beginning instead of trying to rush stuff out. Mm-hmm. And I think Rey took a big hit in popularity and took a big tank in that way because of the way people reacted to the trilogy. Mm-hmm. She's now associated with that trilogy forever. Just like Jake Lloyd Anakin is always going to be attached to the prequels. Mm-hmm. Just like every character from each trilogy will always be associated with that trilogy.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that the Rey movie is now kind of just indefinitely shelved, which is, again, an issue in and of itself that I have with Lucasfilm, where they just abandoned ship. You have hair. They had just abandoned ship on everything. And that's another one. It's you have an opportunity. You announced that you are going to do something with Rey Skywalker for the first time in like 10 years. Mm. And then you picked a director/producer, a writing team, and then your director/producer, I think her name was Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, started, getting flack because she's going on interviews saying she likes to make men uncomfortable and blah, blah, blah. And so what does Lucasfilm and Disney do? They abandon ship and they say, "Oh no, we have to be done." We have to, and it sucks because the interview, I watched the interview, and she is talking about her. I don't want to misspeak. She was doing documentaries on culture somewhere in the Middle East where she is from. Like that's her heritage, and it was talking about like women in that culture. Mm-hmm. And she was talking about how that documentary was made to make men feel uncomfortable, because how it should make you feel uncomfortable seeing how women are treated in that culture. And somehow we got it twisted up into that's what she wants to do with the Rey movie in Star Wars.
But that's also interesting because that's like the opposite end of the views of people that they've fired for,
Isn't that wild?
Other people
Isn't that wild? They don't stand, and that's my problem with the corporations, is that they don't stand for anything. And that's what's frustrating. Star Wars is so capable. We've just talked about it for like 45 minutes now. They're so capable of making compelling women, characters who are women, as protagonists, as supporting characters, as villains, as, whatever you want it to be.
Ooh, speaking of villains, we didn't talk about Mother Townsend.
Dude, the second I said villains, the Night Sisters popped into my mind. Yeah, that's a top 10 action figure want for me right now is Mother Townsend.
Have they ever made an action figure of her?
She has 3 3/4 inch animated action figures. Yeah,
like that's so sick. I don't know, like that whole the witches and the
and again, that's another one. You hear Night Sisters, you don't think twice.
Yeah.
About the coven of witches that are the Night Sisters. Right. And they just have so much lore to them.
Asajj Ventress.
Asajj Ventress, dude.
I love Asajj.
She's awesome.
Yeah, Ventress is... I think that is who we should be talking about. Like, she's a villain. She has a character arc, a redemption arc.
She has a past.
She has a future. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
Like, that's... Yeah, like, women can be villains and make them cool, and it's not like... friggin' evil queen killing people because people are prettier than her. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's... I love seeing that. And then you have, like, the episodes where Ahsoka and Ventress are fighting, but then in season 7 when they are connecting again and helping each other, and
yeah,
I don't know, it's cool. It's super sick.
And I will say just another character that just popped into my head. I have my qualms with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but one of them is not how they portrayed Leia in the show. The actress was phenomenal.
She's so good.
The writing for her character was also phenomenal.
And again, it's showing, like, a kid being a kid, but also a girl being a girl. Like, she doesn't want to put her princess dress on, which makes sense for Leia but then she is climbing, but she's also, like, caring about her droid, and she's caring about Obi-Wan. It's all things that are in line with Leia's character, but also in line with being a little girl. You know what I mean?
I think Star Wars does a great job of celebrating and recognizing some of just the innate differences between the men and women in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I think they do a fantastic job of, because we are different, and just the way that our brains work, and I think they do a great job of portraying those differences and celebrating those differences. It's Star Wars has never made me feel like there's a fight between our boys and girls better than each other. I think why I really enjoy all the women in Star Wars so much, is because I don't feel like there's that underlying fight. Boys rule, girls drool, Like, we're just all in it together, and we're just all working together. I love that about that storytelling. That's
refreshing, because I watch a lot of period dramas, and where it's all about gender differences.
Downton Abbey,
you can be, like, the best character on the show, but you still... Well, that's a different...
The Boys spectrum. Is more tongue-in-cheek, I feel like,
But, like, even the men that were, like, loving and good role models, they still had, like, their negative views about women because that's just what the society was at the time. And same with right now, like, you know, there can be nice guys, but then they still have just like the worst views of women, you know? That's why nice guys finish last.
No. A lot of times the whole nice guys are
nice guys
the worst of the offenders.
That's true. Because it's all fake. But anyway, we don't need to get into all that. I don't know why.
It's all an abstract concept.
Illusion.
It's all an illusion.
Society.
Yeah, I think that all the consistency in Star Wars, there isn't that underlying message that's trying to be portrayed because the characters are just being people. They're just being themselves. They're being authentic, and that's all there is to it.
And I love seeing that in like a fantasy sci-fi lens because you want to see humanity even when it's, you know, aliens and outer space and all that. Like it's cool to see just like you said, just authentic humans being humans.
Yeah.
Whether that's male or female. And not to bring up men again, but like thinking about the clones, you know, they are portrayed very well in how men interact with each other and how bonds are formed. And how like disagreements are dealt with too. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, think of that. That's, they like, fight with each other, and then they get over it. Like, you crack me up with how you talk about your police friends. Like, it kind of blows my mind. But, compared to how women deal with conflict.
You're an asshole! No, you!
But you're my best friend. Like, that's what
but I'd still take a bullet for you.
Yeah. Like, I don't get it. But,
hey,
like...
that thing you did, you're awful for that.
But, like, you know, with women, we have to get mad and silent, and then we talk about it 2 months later, and then we're better.
And I love how we both are like, I could never.
And then it's all good.
But again, though, I think it in a way it all complements each other because you take more time to think when something is upsetting you. When I'm upset about something, I want to handle it right now, and I want to, I'm ready to just like go to war, and you're like, well, let's think, let's maybe take a step back and contemplate, and that's why I think that we bring out the best in each other, and again, that translates over to the Star Wars, where I think that it makes it so much more compelling because that's my word this time around. Last time it was a different word. This time it's compelling.
Well, it's showing how men and women can work together and use their strengths
to complement each other,
rather than the whole gender wars and
and somehow Star Wars does it, but it also makes it feel like everyone is just an individual,
right?
And they're all equal in this fight. I love it. It's great, and it helps me to just kind of forget about the BS going on in the real world, because I get to just watch a show or a movie or whatever it is where it's completely different. It's great. If you had to give me a top 3, a top 5, some of your highlights, maybe not even a specific number. What are some of your all-time favorites in Star Wars through the whole franchise?
Just of what? Like of women?
Your favorite women.
Just characters.
Yeah.
Not moments.
You could do either or.
Okay, yeah. That was just a really big question. Okay. Top is Hera. I just love how she's portrayed. And I think, I don't know, she just is such a cornerstone in that family unit. And it's because she's a female. Because she has those caring moments, it's because she can bring Kanan down when he's way up here, you know? And that's important with any type of family, is having that balance of someone who gets really passionate and someone who can level them out.
Yeah.
With the same drive of passion too. So Hera is number one in my book. I think I now that I'm thinking about Ventress, I want to put her top tier as well.
She's up there.
She's such a cool villain.
She's up there.
Think about how she is Dooku's apprentice after Maul. Like, that's sick. That's
pretty dope.
It's not talked about enough. And I know that it's Clone Wars. Clone Wars isn't really canon, is it? Anyway, I think Omega, I think the more we have talked about all these women, the higher they've gone up on my list just in the past hour. And then I think we can't forget Padme and Leia. I think Padme and Leia in my head are simpatico because they are both those political, like democracy-driven.
Oh, they're really
women.
The ones that started it all for Star Wars.
Exactly. And obviously you got the mother-daughter thing going on, but in my head, they emulate the same energy.
Put some respect on her name.
So true.
Put some respect on it.
Should I just list every female character?
Should I just... Naming every... Oh, you like women in Star Wars?
Yeah.
Name every woman in Star Wars.
I mean, and the more I'm thinking about, like, there are so many. One I don't like, not because she's of her written, but I just don't like her as a character, is what's the blue Twyla?
Aayla Secura?
Yeah, I don't really like
From
her.
Clone Wars? And really?
I don't really like her that much.
Commander Bly's gonna love that.
Does he like her?
That's the one that Bly kills in Revenge of the Sith.
Oh. Yeah, I just kind of like,
Yeah. And Commander Bly also called when he broke his knee Ayla's Revenge. So.
Yeah, but that's not because of how she's written, right? It's just my personal
Jen's a hater.
take. I don't really like. I mean, like, I like Sabine, but she's not my favorite female character.
Sabine's not really it for me.
She's hit or miss
She's
sometimes.
okay.
She has her episodes, and I'm like, okay. But again, it's not because of her being a shallow character or badly written. It's just
you don't jive with her as much.
You're allowed to not like people. I have other people that in real life.
If I was sitting down at the lunch table, I would not choose to sit at the table that Sabine's at.
Exactly.
I would choose to sit at the table that
okay.
Hera's at every single time.
And that's okay. It's not me being against women. I just find her decision making unbearable.
I love Cy Snoodles. She's a baddie.
Well, she's my Halloween costume. So good news for you.
Good news for you. Get ready, buddy. Get ready, buddy. Oh my god. So for me, if I had to pick a couple, all the ones you said, obviously.
Copier. Oh, you can't name another woman?
I really like Bo-Katan.
Oh,
as a character.
I don't, but that's just personally.
Bo-Katan's great.
Oh, we know why you like Bo-Katan.
Mm-hmm. Let's also give hats off to Fennec Shand while we're talking about women in Star Wars. She's a fantastic character. She fits so seamlessly into everything she's in. She's in Bad Batch. She fits. She's in Book of Boba. She fits. She's in Mando. She fits. Just everything I've seen her in, I'm like. And it just works. I never question it. She goes toe to toe with Cad Bane and becomes his rival.
Yeah,
makes sense to me. Just is what it is.
And she's Mulan.
I
love that.
And she's in Marvel. She was in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. Yeah, shout out Ming-Na Wen. let's see. I'm trying to just Omega again. I know you already said her, but for me, you know, cloner. Had to pick a clone. Omega. She's a cool one. Another big one for me would be trying to go through all the shows. Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. Ahsoka, such an obvious one.
That's why I wasn't saying her, because
you knew I was going to say
yeah.
it. I feel like Ahsoka's such a gimme. But you see her whole life.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen her since she was a baby on the screen. Mm-hmm. You know?
True.
It's awesome to just see how real she is. I think Ahsoka is a great character because she just is. You get to see her actively struggle with different things throughout her life.
Yeah.
And deal with different things throughout her life. And it's authentic. It's not, well, I'll just have to get over it. Like, she deals with grief and trauma and
everything that she deals with it in the way that Ahsoka would deal with it. Like, she doesn't really change her core values or core personality.
Ahsoka walking away from the Jedi Order. I remember sitting in the living room watching Cartoon Network with my dad. They get the whole thing sorted out. Barriss goes to jail. Anakin is standing with her at the temple, welcomes her back to the Order, and she walks away. I remember, like, I was choked up when I was a kid. That was just like, you're watching her walk away, and that was the end of the season, Jen. And then they didn't air any more Clone Wars on Cartoon Network for 10 years. They never, or anywhere on TV. You had to buy episodes from season 6 on DVD, and then season 7 didn't come out for 10 years. Yeah, we saw her in Rebels, but again, you never get any closure on that moment. Yeah, that was my dad.
Trauma response going on over here.
I remember my dad and I watching it, and our jaws were to the floor at that scene. Yeah, but again, that's another example. She made the decision that was best for herself, the decision that she knew she needed to make, and it's a very powerful message to send to young women. You can make a decision for yourself. It's a very difficult decision. You know, walk away from everything you know if it's not right. I'll say it again. Bad is bad. Good is good. Jen got to watch the reference to Thumb Wars, The Phantom Cuticle. So.
Thank God.
Princess Bunhead.
Yeah.
Shout out to women in Star Wars. Princess Bunhead.
Jesus.
Anyways, we've been going for over an hour now, so any closing thoughts on women in Star Wars, Jen? What do you feel like this was a productive conversation?
It is.
I feel like it was a fun conversation.
It's the Force is female. That's all I gotta say.
The Force is female. Woke. I can't believe. Oh my god!
I was waiting for the perfect moment. No, I think it's important to talk about media and how different groups of people are portrayed, and if they're doing it well and if they're not, because I'm just sick of all the on the nose girl power movies that mean nothing.
That's exactly it.
That's why I want to talk about this, because I think Star Wars is an outlier right now.
They got it right.
Obviously this is over the span of 50 years, but I think it's important to acknowledge that some franchise is doing it pretty well.
They got it right from the start. And they kept it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Compared to where almost every other franchise is going downhill.
What other franchise could have Padme Amidala, who's a politician, just be battling also in every movie that she's in, like on a battlefield? Like what other franchise would that not feel jarring?
Right.
Like this, and when you watch it in Star Wars, yep, and that's just what happened.
Right.
Like, you never question it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I just think it's an important conversation, and it's fun to talk about because it's compelling.
The word of the week is compelling.
But yeah, I I love women.
Me too. Yeah, I think this was a really great conversation to have, and obviously it's a conversation that I don't get to have very often because I don't talk to girls. Yeah, this was great. It's been awesome. Let us know what you think. If you hate women, make sure to let us know.
Comment below.
And if you love women, comment below.
Give it that thumbs up.
Share with us some of your favorite women in Star Wars, and let us know.
And name a woman.
Name every woman in Star Wars to prove you love women. With that, guys, again, make sure to check out all the links in the description below. Thanks for watching another episode of the Blitzcast. We'll catch you next week, and may the Force be with you. And may the Force be female. That's great, babe.